The Joe Biden administration is making the Palestinians very comfortable. All this and much more here at the Joshua and Caleb Report.
In a world plagued with anti-Israel propaganda, Hayovel presents the Joshua and Caleb Report, a positive voice of truth straight from Israel's heartland.
In a world of negativity and fake news, every Christian should be connected to the life and positivity that Israel brings to the world. I am Luke Hilton here on the Mount of Blessing with Joshua Waller. We are in the biblical heartland of Israel, and we're glad to have you with us today, talking about the United States, how they affect Israel, and talking about Israel and everything that's happening here in the biblical heartland. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe and the notification bell, and we like getting your comments, so keep those going down below. If you're listening on a podcast app, go ahead and follow us there for free, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, we need ratings, so take a minute and give us a good rating. If you want to give us a bad rating, just don't worry about it at all. And we are on Rumble, and we have a link in the description below for wherever you're listening if you'd like to find us on Rumble and watch there. Josh, a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, we talked about a libel, pretty bad libel, going around in the United States amongst the United States politicians, and we won't even bother saying her name again, but I heard it spread to other politicians, and basically that was Israel is participating in apartheid and racism for not giving the Palestinians vaccines. Right. Well, Israel is about as responsible for giving the Palestinians vaccines as the United States is responsible for giving them to Mexico or Canada. Okay.
Same, exact.
Under the 1993 Oslo Accords, Palestinian Authority is responsible for vaccinating their own population. Well, Israel, as a gesture of goodwill, I guess, and to help the Palestinians out, because believe it or not, that's actually what they do on a regular basis. Israel helps the Palestinians out a lot. They decided to give the PA 5,000 doses of the vaccine that they have, transferred them over. It was all over social media, Arab social media, with photos at the Beitunia crossing, right, into Palestine, close to Ramallah.
Right.
They got photos of the whole thing. It's all over social media. Arab news networks reported on it, and then the PA
they had a glitch.
Ministry of Health says it never happened, and they denied it.
Yeah. They were like, whoops, sorry we reported. The reporters came back, and they were like,
I'm sorry.
We accidentally reported that before.
We didn't know. We didn't have permission.
Yeah.
So
that was supposed to be a secret.
So I guess bottom line, the reason we're mentioning this is that the Palestinians, they want Israel's help as long as they can deny it publicly.
And also
because they wouldn't actually exist without Israel's help. Israel gives them electricity and water, collects their taxes, gives them humanitarian aid into Gaza every day, and helps them out with stuff like this. But publicly, the PA wants the world to know that they're martyrs and victims.
Yeah. And you know what? I wanted to say something very clearly, because a lot of people don't understand that we're talking about people here that have an agenda. Right. The Arab people have an agenda here. And as long as it has to do with their agenda and their goal, according to their religion, it's actually fine to flat out, bold-faced lie.
Exactly.
So they have to be clear about that. These guys have an agenda and they have a goal, and it's okay to lie to get to that goal. So you have Arabs now stating
is to wipe Israel off the map.
Well, and they're also stating it, or make at least demonize Israel on the global stage, right? So they're saying things like Israel is responsible for giving these vaccines to us, and they're not. Right. Well, that's bold.
Right.
Face.
Lie,
not true.
Exactly.
So that's not historical. That's not paper. That's not what's on the books. But it doesn't matter, because they're dealing with a sympathetic reaction in people that are trying to get people to engage on that level.
And we're going to talk about this in a second, because the Joe Biden administration it's only been weeks, and they are majorly emboldening the Palestinians and the world to support the Palestinians' victimhood mentality even more. And we're going to get to that in just a second. But first, we got to have some very, very good news, and that is the yearly, they call it the West Bank Statistics Report as of January 2nd, 2021. Of course, talking about Judea and Samaria. Now, these numbers do not include about 325 residents of East Jerusalem or Jerusalem neighborhoods, which are technically considered to be part of the West Bank. So if you add those in, you're getting close to 800,000 people here. These stats do not include the 325,000 that are part of Jerusalem, East Jerusalem there. Total number of Jewish residents in Judea and Samaria as of January 2nd this year, 475,481. That's a 2.62 growth in 2020, even amidst the pandemic and Aliyah numbers being down. just, things being very difficult last year, still had a very good growth rate. 17.02 growth in the last 5 years for Judea and Samaria. I'm not going to go through all the numbers for the different communities, but I did want to point out, because we are broadcasting from the Mount of Blessing here, Mount Gerizim from the Bible, Har Bracha, which is a community close by here, they are at 2,883 residents. And what's kind of cool, and we kind of have to brag on the community here that we're right next to, is that there are 1,000 residents over or larger than any of the other communities around here.
The surrounding.
So the Har Bracha community, they're doing something
they got it right.
Amazing. All the other communities too as well, but they have a lot of vision here, and I've never seen a time when they're not building new apartments and new families moving in. So their growth is just amazing. The projected Jewish population 2 years from now, 2023, based on the last 5 years' growth, they're projecting to be 507,000. So 2 years, Judea and Samaria will be over 500,000, and hopefully be even sooner than that, because growth rates could shoot up, especially if Aliyah goes back to normal,
right?
And maybe this pandemic might end one day. And the projections are to be over 1 million residents by 2045. So all that is to say, the biblical heartland is not going away. It's growing, it's prospering, thriving. The prophecies are being fulfilled here, and can't ignore it, any longer.
Yeah. I would say one thing else to say on that is that you can also kiss a two-state solution absolutely goodbye. Go ahead.
And the Biden administration is not willing to do.
They're going to try to bring it back. Hey, but what's the Biden administration? What's America? We're in Israel, Luke.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. That's like all the other countries that are also trying
Israel
to push
to want to stand up on their own 2 feet a little bit stronger.
Israel's going to have to stand up on their own 2 feet in this situation, and it's not happening. Israel's not going to be pushing for a two-state solution. They're just not. That's not what Israel is doing.
Like you said, it's physically impossible. Politicians can talk about it all they want. They pulled out of Gaza. They pulled 8,000 Jewish residents out of Gaza. There's 475,000 Jewish residents in Judea and Samaria. Ain't happening. Under anybody's watch.
So don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. Good news from Judea, Samaria, all of the lands, these Bible lands, they're not going anywhere. They're actually staying right put. And the people that are here, they're staying put right with it. Just like Amos says. I love it. Right. Amos 9 says they're just going to be here and they're not going to be pulled up again.
That's right.
So that's where we're at, guys. If you're doubting it
is happening.
They're
right
rooted.
Now.
They're grounding back here in the land of Israel. It's literally Bible just blowing right in front of us. The Jewish people just coming back to the land, covering this land. And we really do have good things. We're going to talk about some kind of hard things, but
hey, let's go to more good news first.
Good news before
more positive news. Let's check out the almond trees blossoming in the community of Sagot, where we're pruning right now. Let's get your update from the field.
All right, guys, it's springtime in Israel, and how do we know that? You just saw an almond blossom. The almond tree is absolutely stunningly beautiful this time of year. This pink, whitish, beautiful blossoms are blooming all over. Not only does it look amazing, as you can see, bees are all over this tree, just covering this almond tree. The smell is absolutely beautiful. So, signs of good times. The almond trees are budding here in Israel. This is the beginning of spring. This is the marker here in the land of Israel. And as you'll see in just a second, when we spin around and show you the vineyards, almond trees are blooming all over the land of Israel. Absolutely spectacular. If you haven't seen it, go Google it again or look closer at this video. Almonds, amazing, absolutely amazing. And something cool about almonds is it's drawing attention around the world. Israeli almonds, their production rates have drawn the attention of a lot of people around the world, especially even in California. They had researchers here researching how the Israelis are getting such productive almonds and quality of the almond as well. A lot better than they've been able to do in the States. So once again, it's Israel, the blessed land. Come over here, guys. You got this, you see this? I think last time I showed you we were pruning with hand pruners, handheld pruners that is. I guess we still got a handheld pruner, but this is electric, much better. We're gonna come in here, we're going to prune a vine. And if you didn't notice, guys, when Ben swung around here, thanks Ben for the camera, the almond trees, they're everywhere. They're just everywhere, beautiful. Okay, we got a Shiraz vineyard here, and we prune it at one bud, but I'll tell you, if you guys were with us a couple weeks ago when we were pruning, and I had that pair of handheld Felco pruners, I'm telling you, this is the dream right here. These Infico pruners have made a world of difference here at the pruning. So I'm just gonna prune this one side. You can tell I'm taking off quite a lot here. And okay, here's something really cool. Did you see that? This has a special trigger on it, guys, that won't allow. So I've got a special connection. See this? You guys can all, oh man, isn't that nice? Safety. Whoop. That way I don't cut my finger off. Now, if I need to, see there's wires in here. Also, if it touches a wire, it also won't go. But sometimes I need to get close. Look at this. This is a genius idea. We grabbed these out of the kitchen at the base. These are just some sort of chef deal. I don't know what it is. But look, I can take that and put it on that finger. And if I ever need to bypass it and get in close like here to cut this one off, I can do so. Just with that, I can bypass the trigger. Isn't that smart? I didn't come up with that myself. Anyway, guys, that's another vine pruned in the hills of Samaria here in the community of Psygot today.
All right, guys, so it is lovely to be out in the fields. That was great to get some good sun out there. Springtime is truly coming in here in the mountains of Israel, and it's gorgeous. Bees, like you saw in the video, flowers blooming everywhere. It's really, really beautiful times. We're going to talk about something right now. We're going to talk about this guy named Mahar Bitar. Is that what you say his name, Luke?
I have no idea.
He's actually an Arab Palestinian guy.
Bitar.
Yeah, probably with a little more chaz in there and stuff like that. But he's American, American Palestinian guy. We're going to talk about Joe Biden's picks.
I want to say I think Joe Biden's leadership picks have just been getting progressively worse and worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it seems like I don't know. He gives us good material to talk about every week. The latest one, and this one definitely seems to be the worst so far. Maher Bitar has been appointed to serve as the Senior Director for Intelligence at the National Security Council. That's a high level, pretty...
It's actually the highest level.
Clear, like as far as security clearance, you're talking about way up there. Yeah. And it's normally one that you would have like a CIA or former CIA officer fulfilling. This guy, however, Bitar, is not an intelligence professional. He's an anti-Israel political activist.
You're telling me he doesn't have any...
a load of that.
He doesn't have any previous...
Let's just look at his history a little bit, okay? As a student at Georgetown University, Bitar was the leader of the anti-Semitic Muslim Brotherhood aligned Students for Justice in Palestine. As a leader of the Students for Justice in Palestine, he organized a boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign against Israel and its supporters on his campus. Bitar chaired a panel at a BDS conference where participants discussed how to indoctrinate Christians to believe that Israel has no right to exist.
Wow.
Okay. This is like taking a step farther because, okay, maybe you have the right to believe that Palestine should be a state or whatever, but that's taking a step further, basically saying not only do the Palestinians have rights, but Israel doesn't have a right to exist. That's like pretty bad. After receiving a degree from Georgetown, Bitar receives a master's from Oxford in forced migration, and he wrote a thesis about the Nakba, or catastrophe of Israel's founding. Nakba Day is a Palestinian, I guess they call it a holiday, but it marks the catastrophe of like when Israel was founded as a state, right?
Yeah. That's Nakba Day. It's always
call it
trouble day.
Nakba means catastrophe.
Yeah.
So during the Obama presidency, he served on the National Security Council as the Israeli-Palestinian officer. In 2016, he served underneath Samantha Powers. In 2016, she was the UN ambassador. He helped Powers play a key role in the passage of UN Security Council Resolution 2334, which we all know was Obama's last blow to Israel in labeling towns in Judea and Samaria as illegal under international law. So this guy is not good news for Israel, and I have no idea what he's doing in the security agency.
Well, he did work somewhere in the State Department before, I believe, but he didn't have such a high level. Like he had some sort of something there.
But his history is nothing good towards Israel.
Well, that's what I want to say, Luke, is that we're not like going to be prejudiced and biased and racial here. That's not what we do. We're very we understand. We're like, okay, we're really good with you come from anywhere, you could do anything. Like we're okay with we're okay. Even if a Palestinian, there's good Palestinians out there, guys. We're going to be the first to say it. But let me tell you this: if you've got a track record like this guy,
well, I guess the one that got me was not the fact that he organized a BDS event on a campus, but the fact that he organized an event to indoctrinate Christians to believe that Israel has no right to exist.
Yeah.
Basically, he's trying to indoctrinate Christians that Israel should not be on the map. They shouldn't have a country. Jews don't have a right to exist anywhere. That's anti-Semitism at its worst. It's complete Jew hatred.
Now, here's the critical part for me, Luke, is when this person, he's in charge of intelligence, okay? So when something comes into the intelligence office, however that works out there, he's the one who decides who it goes to. Okay, let's just blow that to the big picture. He's in charge of where intelligence goes to. It doesn't, like an ally, there's this big ally. We're sitting in this country named Israel right now, and this guy is now in charge of intelligence, and Israel's going to be, okay, we're not even going to talk about the intelligence. Look at the world stage right now. It's pretty important that Israel and the United States have some pretty good communication right now in regard to what's happening. Look, we got Iran now.
And my brain immediately went to Jonathan Pollard, right? Which is the whole reason why he states that he did what he did is because the U.S. government refused to share information that they were obliged to with Israel. Security, intelligence information that could have helped Israel, and they were actually obligated to under agreement, and they refused to do it. So this could be happening on a much worse level, especially when you're talking about Iran, which could be months away from a nuclear bomb. Yeah, I mean, this could be a serious threat.
Well, look at our Secretary of State now. He's the one that was in the Obama administration that actually helped write the whole Iranian plan. He was involved with that before the 2015 deal. Now we've got this. We're going back to the same deal. We're going to finish up with something about that. Israel, the IDF actually tweeted about that just this last week. So
let's talk about someone else that's in. He is the U.S. envoy to the UN Security Council, I think, or the UN. Richard Mills, he told the UN Security Council this week on Tuesday that the United States plans to reopen diplomatic missions for the Palestinians, which you could assume is the PLO mission in Washington, D.C., and the PA consulate in East Jerusalem. And he described that Trump administration policy steps would be overturned now that Joe Biden is in the White House. And I want to read a couple of quotes from this guy because just very significant. Quotes from Richard Mills when he at a conference to the UN Security Council this week. He said, quote, "The Biden administration will restore credible U.S. engagement with Palestinians as well as Israelis. This will involve," they never stopped talking to Israelis, so they're talking about Palestinians. Another quote, "This will involve renewing U.S. relations with the Palestinian leadership and Palestinian people, relations which have atrophied over the last 4 years. President Biden has been clear in his intent to restore U.S. assistance programs that support economic development and humanitarian aid for the Palestinian people," talking about U.S. aid, obviously. "The U.S. will urge Israel's government and the Palestinian Authority to avoid unilateral steps that make the two-state solution more difficult." They're committed to a U.S. Two-state solution. And the U.S. frowns on Israeli steps such as annexation of territory, settlement activity, and demolitions.
You know what those demolitions are?
Exactly.
That's of terrorist homes.
Exactly.
Like the IDF doesn't just go demolish Arab towns.
And by the way, the U.S. discourages incitement to violence and providing compensation to individuals in prison for acts of terrorism. We discourage it.
Discourage.
You know what got me about this whole thing is it's like comparing apples to oranges, okay? Here's what we're saying to the United States. Here's what United States is saying to Israel. We're saying, don't build homes, don't settle, don't build up your own country, don't do anything that we don't like. What are they saying to the Palestinians? We discourage violence. We discourage paying terrorists, murderers in Israeli jails. It's like, why is this even in the same sphere?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're saying Israel don't do anything good and positive, and Palestinians don't do anything bad, like murder people and kill people.
Yeah, we're going to take the
So
standard way
it's just
lower.
like could not be more clear what the Biden administration is actually presenting to the Palestinians. And they've already had their first conference call with the Palestinian Authority officials. They've made good on that promise to restore that relationship, and I think the PA couldn't be more happy about
the PA also
new relationship.
Getting the backing from the Biden administration is also super important to them, even in regards to building and things like that. We talked about it last week. We're building a little pergola here, a little porch or something like that. It's going all the way to the White House again.
Right.
Like the process is going to go back exactly like it was in the Obama administration, where a Jewish person builds something. It's a completely different set of rules for the Jewish person who builds something versus the Arab that build something. It goes to the communities that are being established here. Even we just talked about building here in Har Bracha. It took them 20 years to get the permits that they're building now. Right. Like these permits have been on the table for years and years and years. Now
they submit permits with the goal of being able to start building those projects 10 years down the road.
10, 20 years. These particular ones, like 20 years in the making, literally. Now there's Arab buildings going all over the place that were just an afterthought. Like, oh, let's build here. There's a guy, American Arab guy. Again, we're talking about American Palestinians. There's an American Palestinian Arab guy that lives on a town I just passed on I gave that field report real close to there, where he buys land here, and then it's like a whole gamut where investment opportunities for Arabs, and he buys land here and he sells it there. It's like nobody said anything about that. What's going on with this? Guaranteed. It's completely illegal. Selling even Area C land. So I'm telling you, like totally biased, totally two different sets of rules happening, forced on the same like. There's major problems with this. There's one law, and that's governing over the whole nation, right?
Right.
Not happening.
If we haven't, just to wrap up this segment, if we haven't really revealed the true intentions and heart of the Palestinians, this is what's happening. Israel, or the United States and Israel together, moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, right? The United States declared Jerusalem to be Israel's capital.
Yeah.
Palestinian Authority cut off all talks and relationship with the United States
since 2017.
Since 2017, have not spoken at all since. President Joe Biden gets elected, inaugurated, put into office. Boom. 2 weeks later, talks are renewed with the United States. That doesn't tell you what's going on. I don't know it will. And this is last week we talked about a couple of attempted terrorist attacks. A month ago, there was a lady that was murdered in northern Samaria. 2 more terrorist attacks happened just this week. An Arab terrorist was shot dead, thank God, this past Sunday as he attempted to stab IDF soldiers in the Gush Etzion junction. No Israelis or Jews were harmed in the incident. And just today or yesterday, an Arab attacked and stabbed a Haredi Jewish man in eastern Jerusalem yesterday, Monday afternoon. Only suffered light injuries, thank God. But I guess the what I'm saying with this and everything we talked about happened last week is because the Palestinians are feeling a new boldness and confidence because they all of a sudden the United States is backing them again. So
I would say not
we're going to
just
see
the
more terrorist attacks attempted in the coming weeks and months for sure.
It's the whole Arab world. We're seeing an emboldenment of this whole Arab agenda, all against the land of Israel, the people of Israel. It's not a pro-Israel agenda that we're seeing pushed. And that's what's being. On that note, Luke, I want to give some good news. There's a little bit of good news and mix. A little bit.
We always got
both here. We got to
finish on.
Yeah, there's 2 things that we're going to talk about here at the last part. 2 good pieces. But this is the IDF actually created a new missile. There's this Raphael deal that it's an organization that works together with the Ministry of Defense and the missile defense system that they've just completed that is like upping their game on the Iron Dome. So that's incredible news, and it's really good news that they're upping their game on this Iron Dome missile defense because of these tweets. So let me tell you what these tweets.
Pretty big threat.
Literally got these tweets off of the IDF. It's a really great resource, actually. Just the IDF Twitter. Like I was like, I'm not a big Twitter guy, but Luke thinks I'm really great on Twitter now. But I don't even have a Twitter.
You might have to get on there.
Twitter.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Then people could actually find you online.
Right. Israel, I got too much pruning to do. I can't do that. The Israel Defense Force Twitter page, this is just last week. They said, here's 3 quotes I've got from it. It says, if the 2015 nuclear deal had been implemented, Iran eventually would have been able to construct a bomb because the agreement did not include restrictions and oversight to prevent it. If anybody is unclear about that and you think the Biden administration is going to pause a Iranian bomb, according to the IDF, not me, which I'm going to just go ahead and just say the IDF's more reputable. Like if the IDF says it in security, I'm not like a security agent.
Right.
If I say something about security, I'm going to go to the IDF, and if they say it, I'm going to believe it. Okay. Yep. All right. So the IDF said that. I believe it. Okay. It says, second tweet. If in the face of these threats, we will respond with extremely significant counterattack that will include targeting rockets, missiles, and weapons, whether in open areas or adjacent to inside buildings. That's a big threat. You'd think most wars, they wouldn't have to put that last line in there that says even if it's adjacent to other buildings. They do that because they're Arabs and they're hiding behind schools.
Because that's what the Muslim
children
radicalization is known for.
That's what's going on.
Is they're not going to be. It's not going to be. They mix civilians and soldiers and terrorists all together.
Now, this is what
That's
I was
happens in
quite-
Gaza on a regular basis.
quite stunned by, and maybe you guys out there listening will be quite stunned by this too, but this is literally IDF Defense Force, the Israel Defense Force Twitter page. Here it is. Their third tweet in this line said, "This is an opportunity and an obligation for me to remind the citizens of the state of Israel as clearly as possible that on D-Day, during a war, many missiles and rockets will explode here and it won't be easy." That's what they said.
They're warning people.
They're just
that
warning people.
It could be rough. It will be rough.
When nuclear, I think they're just trying to say if Iran gets a bomb, guys, they're trying to wake the world up. Because like me and you, we grew up in a generation.
They're saying Iran is well on their way to getting a bomb and we're not going to stand by and do nothing about it.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what the Biden administration in the United States is going to do.
Yeah, stand by and not do anything about it. Because, hey, look,
They're
we
going
got
to
Israel
pretend
to
like
take
they're
care
doing
of it.
something
Yeah.
about it,
No.
but it's not going to do a thing.
So, guys, that's just a wake-up call. Hey, we grew up in a generation, Luke, you and I, we never experienced
seen war,
war.
yeah.
We don't, we just, not on our soils anyway.
Right.
So it's just a wake-up call. Guys, if we allow treachery to continue on this world and don't do anything about it, it will knock on our doors, and we just can't sit down and be quiet. That's what we're telling you about this. That's why the IDF's telling you about it. They're saying don't allow this kind of thing to happen. One last note, the Muslim majority, and Luke, this is a country. It's called Kosovo. Kosovo. It's like over there above Greece.
Okay.
But it's
Not too far away.
the Muslim majority Kosovo. Guess what it did? It's going to sound bad, but actually it's really good.
Yeah.
Because
They
I
join on?
just said the Muslim majority, and
joining
we're talking
in?
about Muslim. No, these guys actually did something good, and here we talk about it. Luke, we're talking about good stuff about the Muslims. See,
right.
if people did something
Exactly.
good, we're going to recognize it. Here it goes.
There's many
They're
good
forging
Muslims out
ties
there.
with Israel. They're projected to open an embassy, not in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem.
Way to
They'll
go,
be
Kosovo.
the third embassy in Jerusalem after the United States and Guatemala. Kosovo, number 3 for
Honduras,
Jerusalem.
they're on the list, but they might be behind Kosovo now.
Is supposed to be doing it, have not yet done that.
All right.
But goes Kosovo, and this really first Muslim state to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of
Way to go.
Israel.
Well, congratulations, Kosovo. Hopefully many more nations will join
That's right.
in. Abraham Accords and forging ties with Israel. Guys, we would love to hear from you. Drop us a comment on YouTube. Send us an email. In the meantime, be strong, be courageous, and be the voice of Joshua and Caleb in your generation.
I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.